Love is our true divine nature, and our heart serves as the intersection of the spiritual and physical, connecting our soul with our body as the conduit for anchoring our divinity onto the earth plane. Embodying our divinity is the key to our ascension and to manifesting our highest destiny in this life. The teachings of the heart are alchemy. Join spiritual mentor and channel Jennifer Spohr each week on a sacred journey to lift the veil to remembering your divinity and meet other beautiful souls who are living the path of the awakened heart. Hey everyone, I am excited to welcome to the show today as a guest, Sara Rae. She is a manifesting coach and crystal Reiki master who teaches mystical women how to manifest on purpose by shattering their manifesting ceiling. She uses her podcast called Spiritually Inspired and her published books to dive into all things manifesting, mindfulness, and magic. Say that really fast, like 6 times.
No.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, all things manifesting, mindfulness, and magic, alliteration. Can't get enough of it. For the modern mystic,
Yes.
manifesting mindfulness, magic for modern mystics. Not by
Say that
accident.
really fast also. Thank you so much. Welcome to the
Yes.
show. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. We actually had the chance to connect on your podcast recently, and I just really enjoyed our connection and our conversation
Yeah.
and looking forward to continuing that today.
That conversation was beautiful. I loved it. I can't wait to share it on my podcast. All about intuition and ego. Loved it.
Yeah, I can talk about that stuff all the day long.
Tell me about it. That's why we have podcasts.
Right? Exactly. I love podcasting. So I'd love for you to share with us, manifesting is obviously something that's, taught a lot and talked a lot about in the personal development industry and in a lot of spiritual circles. I'm excited to dig into this topic with you specifically because I feel like a lot of the teachings that are out there are really still taught from more of the mental space. You know what I'm saying? It's just like
Mhm.
people getting intentional about manifesting and creating their reality. But in my experience, I found a lot of those people are still primarily operating from their mind, right?
I absolutely agree. There is a very specific rhetoric out there currently around manifesting, and it's not wrong. It's just only a part of the story. I do think that the mental aspect is really important. And I think that a lot of people can experience a lot of almost instant change when they go through those mental exercises of, visualizing, affirmations, um, vision boards, journaling, all that sort of stuff is really powerful and creates so much change because that's how powerful your mind is. But it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just one of the phases of manifesting. And I like to say that there's 4 phases of manifesting, and that's your mindset shifting is huge, very important stuff. Can make a big difference just right off the get-go. But I also like to say that manifesting is kind of like goal setting with a little bit of magic thrown in there.
I
Where
love
it's
that.
yeah, because you need to have certain things in place. Like let's just say you want to manifest world travel, like myself. That's like one of my big manifesting dreams is world traveling. But you know how hard is to do without a passport? Like at one point you got to go get your passport, right? Or let's just say you want to manifest a marriage, which is a really common thing that people come to me with. They want help, but they want to find the one, or they want to find a new spouse or improve their relationships. You
Mhm.
can't really do that if like you're not talking to people, so you have to do things, and people often feel like I either get one or two reactions. I either get, well, duh, you have to do stuff to make stuff happen. Or I get people going, oh, you mean I can't just sit in my room all by myself and think of a new life and it just happens to me? So
Yeah,
I like to say that goal manifesting is goal setting with a little bit of magic in there too. There's
I
more
love
to
that.
it. Yeah.
When you say that, I think of Practical Magic. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, yes, and I've read the book too.
I have
Absolutely.
the book too. It's
That's a good one.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I must have watched that movie a million times. I'm sure I have. I would love for you to share with us your unique flavor of work in terms of how you teach manifesting. And I know you also work with crystals as well and Reiki. I'd love for you to share with us what inspired you to this path and what's translated from your personal journey that you now teach other people in regard
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah. Well, I would say I initially started with crystal healing and tarot reading. That's kind of where it all started, I would say. I've only been embracing the manifesting coach title for the last handful of years, probably about 4 years or so. Um, and the reason why I decided to make that switch is because not because I don't do those things anymore. I still do crystal Reiki and I still do tarot readings for people, but I think I realized that most people come to these sorts of services because they're looking for a change. You know what I mean? I'm sure you're similar. Like you get a lot of clients because they're looking for something specific. And the way we go about doing this, the way we go about creating the change in our lives is different when you are spiritually inspired, when you have this calling to like be part of something bigger, when you have an awakened heart, when you're going through a spiritual awakening, you do things differently. And a lot of the people that come to me realize that they're in the middle of a spiritual awakening, or they're just starting, or they're feeling a little bit of stuck, so they want to like go to that next phase. And I was never like necessarily like super obsessed with the idea of the law of attraction. It was never something that like I couldn't like that like gripped me in its hold. You know how some things do when you're learning about spiritual topics. Like I could not get enough of crystals. You know what I mean? Like I was obsessed. The tarot is like me all day, every day. Manifesting became like a way more gradual. Like I started to realize like this is what we're doing and this is what it means and these are the words we use to describe it. Like kind of gradually over time by working with people and going through my own life and making changes and bringing about the things that I wanted. So that's kind of why I decided to really embrace working with the law of attraction and leaning into that manifesting because we all are ultimately trying to do that. And whether or not we're trying to do it, it's happening anyway. So I also kind of see it as like practical life skills where this is how you kind of operate in the world, sort of, if that makes sense, because it is a law, so to speak. It's how things work in the world if you choose to see it that way, if you choose to embrace the magic and work in tandem with the universe. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
we're
how I
we're
ended up
already
where I am.
living, right? We're already here.
Yeah,
Why not make the
absolutely.
most of it? Why not get intentional about it? Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. Manifesting on purpose is what we all do, or trying to do anyway.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What would you say are some of the most common challenges that you experience with clients in terms of like where they're feeling stuck and then how do you help them move forward?
Oh, yes. I ask this to every single person that fills out an client intake form, every single person who fills out the little questionnaire to get into my Facebook group. What is your biggest roadblock? What is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? And there's a handful of answers. I've actually done multiple podcast episodes about addressing these common roadblocks. One of the most common ones is feeling like they don't have enough time, right? Time scarce. And
Mhm.
that's a whole mindset shift, right? Another one, people are feeling like they don't have enough money. They don't have enough money, or they don't have enough support is another big one. And people often just say, like, me, I'm the roadblock, I'm the problem, like this is my issue, which I think is really interesting. Like it's almost like you want to say it's self-awareness, but it's also like not really. It seems like more self-deprecating. So I would say one of the probably the most common one that I get that people say that is their issue is themselves, which I don't know. I don't know. It's like I want to support people and I don't want to say you're wrong, but I also want to be like, hey, that's a limiting belief, you know, a little bit. So my goal is with working with these people is to realize that you are more than you know, as and I know you're at an avid meditator, so you can understand what I'm saying here, but
Mm.
you are not you. There's more you than there is when you observe yourself, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
people often when I hear people say I'm the problem, what I really hear is that the ego was in the way, right? They're too stuck in the ego. Kind of circling back to our conversation for the spiritually inspired podcast, like they are kind of overrun with thoughts and emotion and they're not really tuning into that quieter side of themselves to really expand. They're kind of
Yeah.
like stuck in that in the thought train, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
definitely ego based for sure. I also
Yeah,
find, that a lot of people um will reach out to me for a reason, right? So for example, they might say, "Oh yeah, it's me," but then once we start working together, they may discover that it's something completely different. I find that happens
absolutely.
often.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to think that it helps people realize that it's not their fault. Because this is
There's
another
no
huge
fault.
thing. Yes, this is a huge misconception in manifesting, actually, where a lot of people get turned away from the idea of the law of attraction or manifesting because they are either told or they're led to believe or they come to the conclusion that everything is their fault. Like every bad experience, every illness, every horrible thing that happens to you is your fault. And while I won't sit here and tell you that you don't have any role to play in anything that happens in your life, that is the law of attraction at play. There is a reason why it's happening, but that's not grounds for you to be shamed or for you to be at fault for any reason. It's just an expansion opportunity. It's a learning experience. Even if it is terrible, there's something within your energy that attracted that energy. And that's just as simple as that, you know? So,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people assume that it's either everything is either their fault or they reject the law of attraction completely because they don't want to take any kind of responsibility. They say there nothing is my fault. So it seems to be either extreme in
Yeah.
any case.
Yeah. Well, and personal responsibility is really key on that growth
Yeah.
journey.
In
Yeah.
a gentle way, I've learned. You can't force yourself to take responsibility. You also can't bear the burden of everything.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All you can take responsibility for is you and how
Yeah.
you're choosing to show up in the world. I mean, uh, the thought that we can control anything else beyond that is really an illusion. Um,
Yeah.
something else you're talking about that made me think of something I say often as well is when we're able to reframe something from a problem to solve to a skill to acquire, that's
Mm.
paradigm shifting.
Yes. I absolutely love that. I'm gonna put that under my toque because manifesting is a skill. Manifesting on purpose is a skill. We are always doing it.
Yes.
It's like breathing, right? You're always breathing. You don't have to think about it. But if you do kind of hone that skill of mindful breathing, your whole life changes. Very similar in creating an intentional life through manifesting. I love that. No problems, just new skills to
Take
learn
it. Take
or
it.
outsourcing to happen, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer when you can look at, like you were saying it though, in just a different way, right? That everything is a learning opportunity, and it's true. We're eternal students as well. Like a lot of people, in my experience, also get frustrated with, they when they feel like they're revisiting something over and over again, the
Yes.
same area. And it's not necessarily, it's like not a bad thing. It's just that we're always stepping into like a next evolution of us.
Yes, I totally agree. And a lot of people, when they're first starting onto their like awakening journey or like their mindful manifesting journey, they don't necessarily take joy in the journey. They just want to get to the destination. And I find that that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, even for me too. Like I just want to get to my big grand dream life vision and just be there and just bask in it. But that's not how it works. You have to work up to it. You have to adopt that energy and change your energy to get there at some point. So it's there's a lot that goes into shifting your mindset around manifesting and figuring out
Oh,
what's
yeah.
best for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a journey. Yeah. It's a lot like we were talking on your show about, intuition and tuning into that voice, right? That inner voice. It's a lot like that. It's like working a muscle, every time the more that you do it, the more intentional you get about it and the more you're able to refine your approach to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a muscle. And that's one of the reasons why I like the way I'm a little biased, but I like the way that I talk about the way manifesting works is because I wanted it to be like an adjustable framework, a flexible roadmap, if you will, to kind of always go through the same motions and kind of figure out a way that works for you. So
Yeah.
there's, like I mentioned, there's four phases of manifesting, and mindset shifting
Yeah.
is the one that we're all familiar with, right? But there's also in intuitive planning, which is just what it sounds like, tapping in, seeing what's there for you, kind of learning the meditation and seeing what is possible, that all that good stuff. And then there's inspired action, also very self-explanatory. But then there's the forgotten one that makes manifesting different than goal setting, which is letting go and kind of letting the universe do its part, the co-creation part of it, right? That where the universe is working with us in tandem. So when you can kind of like pick and choose, cherry pick, kind of go in any order that you can go in, you find a way that works for you. So I'd like to think that manifesting is flexible and it bends to your journey, no matter what it is or whatever your interests are, or whatever you're going through. If you keep going through the same thing over and over again, the same manifesting ceiling that you keep experiencing, there's something there for you. There's more work to do in that phase, whatever that may be for you.
Absolutely. I mean, the universe responds to us in whatever energy frequency we're
Yeah.
emitting, right?
Constantly, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
I like to make up words, and I call that your manifesting ceiling because you're constantly against it. You're never not at your manifesting ceiling because that's like the zenith of where you are right now. And your patterns, the lessons, the experiences, whatever it is are going to repeat until you react differently or you respond differently. You change the energy, and then it shatters, and then kaboom, you're somewhere else.
Yeah. It's it's just so freaking liberating when you break through on that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's crazy. And it's also really easy to go back. I'll say that. But it is pretty incredible and validating and empowering and exciting. So many things when you realize that not only can I break through this, but I did break through this. What else can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. I love stories. I'd love for you to share with us what is a success story, either with yourself or with a client that comes to mind, that illustrates what we're talking about, this framework that you use.
Yeah, I can definitely think of a few in both directions. I mean, for myself, I mean, I manifested the exact car that I wanted. Not super exciting, but it happened the exact way that I wanted it to. I wanted a very specific make and model with a very specific number of miles and a specific price point. And it was like 4 days later, I was driving that car home. So it can be like very practical in that way. I had a client a few years ago who, when I started working with her, she
Mhm.
was she was working at a company that she really did not like at all. And she was really good at her job, but a lot of the things didn't really make any sense. And as time went on together, she like she started kind of not really doing her job duties because they kept pulling her away to do other things until eventually she just like got fired. And which of course she was distraught about at first, but then that same day, like multiple hours later, she got a whole new job that took her abroad, which is ultimately what she wanted to. She wanted to move abroad, and it just, it only took 4 months, and that's crazy how it like came crashing down, but it also like got rebuilt in like the same day. So that's an extreme example, but also for myself, one of my favorite manifesting success story for myself that I like to share used to be that I manifested my perfect birthing experience, and now it's I manifested my perfect birthing experience twice. So I was very, very fortunate. Very I don't want to say lucky, but I feel very grateful that I had the birthing experiences that I did because they were completely uncomplicated. They were exactly what I wanted them to be and what I needed them to be. Um, and it happened twice, I think, because there was a certain level of inevitability. Like I just believed that there was no other option. Like they just had to go this way. Like it just is what it is. And I firmly believe that belief that I held so true is why it manifested the way that it did. And I try to carry that sense of inevitability into everything that I want to create. It is already here. It's already mine. And I understood that like on paper before
Mhm.
I got pregnant the first time. But then once there was a little human inside of me that I was like, one way or another, this thing's coming out of me at some point. And it
This
just,
thing, this
this
baby,
thing, yeah, this little baby that I adore.
this miracle
Yeah,
of life.
yes, exactly. Like either way, it's going to come to an end,
Mhm.
and how that happens is up to me essentially. So, yeah, it might be kind of hard to explain the finality of it, but I do think that is a big missing piece for a lot of people where it feels so dreamy and it feels so lackadaisical or like, oh, it'd be nice if this happened. I'm working on it, I'm manifesting it would be nice. But it's like, no, you have to act as if. And pregnancy really taught me that. I had to act as if because it was like literally a countdown. And I knew one way or another it was going to happen. And I
Yeah.
wanted it to happen my way. I hope that makes sense.
Man, there's so much I want to unpack from what you just shared. First is what you're what you're saying about inevitability, right, is connected with what I talk about all the time, which is living embodied in your truth, right?
Yes.
Which is moving, it's shifting even from believing to knowing,
Yeah. Yes.
right?
That's a really good way of putting it. 'Cause you just have
Yeah,
to know that it's true. Because the energy of believing is different than the energy of knowing.
knowing, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other piece that really stood out for me is that I love that you used birthing, that experience as an example, um, because it's a great example of where there are more well-known alternative approaches to birthing these days that we're more aware of versus, maybe a while back. I think a lot of people, whether it's with a birthing experience or something else, that they just assume that there's this established construct around something, the way that it has to be done. And
So
so
true.
that's where what you're saying about, oh, well, it would be nice if, right? The person that's saying it would be nice if is the person that has the belief that, oh, well, if I want to have this experience, then it's going to have to happen this way, where we're limiting ourselves. It's not true. Like we're literally limitless in our ability to create our reality
Yeah,
outside and transcending any kind of established constructs that are in place.
absolutely. And this just is a really good segue into the great manifesting contradiction.
Go
Where
for it,
you
girl.
Yeah,
Lay it
where
on us.
people often like get to this point. My clients like get to this point and they go, "Wait, I thought I was supposed to like know exactly what it is that I want, but now you're telling me that I have to let it go and be okay with whatever happens." And I'm like, "Yep,
Pretty much.
yep, pretty much." So so birthing, continuing with this example, is perfect. It's a perfect example because yes, I and every other mother out there has a very specific way they want it to come into the world. They want their child to be born. Well, we're talking about another human here who has their own agenda and their own,
Right.
karma to live out and their own experiences and whatever. So it's going to happen their way regardless of what you want, right? So this is it. You visualize it, you want it, you know it as if and you're not believing it. You're not going, it would be nice if you're going, this is happening this way. But also at the same time, you need to have a sort of like a flexible approach to it. You need to be okay with whatever happens. Like knowing as if and behaving as if while also being okay with whatever is the contradiction. It's one of the hardest things to kind of like wrap your head around because it's such a paradox. And your soul understands though. It's not really up for the ego. I think this is where a lot of like the faith comes into and the
Mhm.
co-creating aspect of the universe, because I firmly believe that the universe will bend over backwards to give you exactly what it is that you want. Not always necessarily what I don't know. I was gonna say what not what you need, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is that the universe will give you the experiences that you want most of the time, even if it's not necessarily ideal, because that's just how it works. But I also firmly believe that your soul knows what's best. So if it's truly not coming true, I think there's an element of something bigger happening.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
synchronicities at play, right? That
Yeah.
we couldn't possibly perceive with only our human mind, right? Which
Yeah.
goes back to the discussion about following your soul's guidance, right? Which has the whole big picture versus your ego mind and your human mind, which just has this kind of one perspective based upon its own individual experiences and conditioning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why intuitive planning is the phase that is really, really important, aside from mindset shifting, also important, but intuitive planning really gets to the bottom of what it is that you want and why you want it.
Mhm.
So like let's just say for example you're in the mindset shifting phase and you put a big old mansion on your vision board, you print it off from Zillow and you're like,
Love
okay,
that.
this
I
I
like Zillow.
yeah, I used to work for Zillow. I loved it, but or no, I didn't. I loved looking at the houses. I love looking at the houses on Zillow. But yeah, you printed it off from Zillow, you put it up there, you put the Lamborghini next to it. You know, you got the Labradoodle dog picture on there, whatever it is that you got the picture, whatever. You got the stuff up there, right? So then you start visualizing and you go like, yep, I'm in the big mansion. I got the Lamborghini. I got the perfect husband and the kids and the dog and whatever. But it's never coming true because that's not actually like what it is that you want. Like whether or not you actually want a Lamborghini is kind of irrelevant. If you get down to the bottom of it, if you really tap in, if you move past the noise of the ego, what you truly want is a cute car that is safe to drive, right? What you really want is not necessarily a mansion, but a beautiful home that you're proud of, that you feel safe in, that's yours. You don't necessarily want the Labradoodle. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but maybe you just want a companion that shows you unconditional love. You got to get down to the feelings of what it is that you want, not
Oh yeah,
necessarily
it's
the
all about how
items.
we feel. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd love to go a little bit deeper. So,
Yeah.
I want to talk about your path or, like a client's path, right? Especially the path of an entrepreneur, someone such as yourself who has taken the leap to take action to pave a path for themselves, right? I'd love you to speak to your experience around manifesting that path based upon the framework that you shared. And what are a couple of the more common challenges on that kind of journey, and how you navigate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that to answer that question, it goes perfectly back to what you were saying, that it has to, like, the social constructs and the paradigms that are in place tell me that it has to be a very specific way. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of my journey, especially when it comes to my spiritually inspired business, have it's told me that it needs to be a specific way in order for it to be successful, or to have it fulfill my purpose or whatever. And I've learned, especially recently with becoming a mother, it doesn't have to be that way. And and of course I understood that on paper, but really working through it and getting into the weeds and taking action and visualizing and letting go and trusting, doing all these beautiful things have really showed me that what I really want is a very specific feeling. And
Yeah.
then when I manifest that feeling, everything else comes with it. For the longest time, Jennifer, I was so focused on manifesting abundance. Like I was so focused on business that I didn't even know other areas of life existed. Like this was so true up until like 3 years ago. And I would make like goal lists and it would only be business stuff, right? And this was like for the last like 10 years. It was only goal business related things. It was only spiritually inspired content creation. It was only client stuff. It was only this and I only cared about this. And I often felt like whenever I was doing anything else that wasn't related to this, it was wasting my time. So I had a lot of time scarcity and a lot of abundance or scarcity mindset, the opposite of abundance mindset, because I was trying to manifest abundance so wholeheartedly. And I really relate to a lot of the people who say like, "Oh, time is my problem, or abundance is my problem. Lack of abundance is my problem." Like I cared so much about it being very, very specific and like not accepting any other way, that I was manifesting the opposite. That I was in such a place of I don't the word denial came to my mind, even though I wasn't expecting to say that. Such a place of denial of what it is that I actually wanted to bring, that it wasn't working regardless. Like nothing was really working. It wasn't until I decided what was actually most important to me. What is it that I actually want to do? Which of course money is part of it too, but it wasn't until I actually decided what does success mean to me that things actually started to happen.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't mean to sound altruistic, but ultimately, what I want to do is make a difference in people's lives, right? The fact that people reach out to me and tell me like that I change their lives, that is worth so much more than any amount of money. But of
Well,
course,
but the thing though is it's what you said, right? It's about how you feel. And what
mhm,
happens is, especially with the topic of money, is that, there are a lot of people out there who will, say teach about money where the focus is all around the money, right? And it essentially like hooks people in, I believe, based upon their egos,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which
Exactly.
the more transformative, effective approach is to take the true approach, which is the opposite, which is okay, what do you really want? What do you really desire? How do you want to feel? How do you envision your life, right? Because to your point, and you said it, when you really get clear in your sense of self and who you are and what success means for you, then the money's going to come. The other things are going to fall into place around that. And you're going to be much more sustainably happy and fulfilled on your journey.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And money, of course, is energy and we need it, and there's no shame in wanting
Absolutely.
it.
Yep.
But when it's only that, when that's your only driving factor, even let's just say it is your only driving factor and you manifest all the money and you make a multi-million dollar business doing whatever it is that you're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to manifest what you actually want, you know? Um,
Exactly. Money is a system of, it's an energy and it's a system of exchange.
yeah.
And it's a great topic that we could have like one whole entire conversation about,
Yeah, and
actually.
I've heard and seen entire podcasts where the subject is nothing but money, and
Yeah,
I've eaten it up, and I've read books, and even in my own books, I've had entire sections about money, and it's important to have a good relationship with it. And I will tell you, like personally, I'm so much better than I used to be, but it creeps up. It's so
totally.
deeply ingrained, and we can all
It is.
relate to it.
Yeah.
And we have businesses to run, we have overhead to pay, we have food to put on the table, we have kids to put through school and whatever else, but it will happen. It's secondary and
We
it's
need to
hard. Like,
reprogram ourselves,
yeah,
right?
I was just gonna say, like, it's so deeply embedded that it
Yes.
takes a conscious effort, but it's so much
Yeah.
better when you do.
Yeah. Oh, so much better. So much better. In
I love the sing song
closing,
to it.
I know I'm gonna create a little song. Dance a little jig too. Um, in closing, what else are you feeling guided to bring forward for listeners?
Mm. I would say, since we're kind of on the topic of business and money a little bit, so many people who are on a spiritual journey, a spiritually inspired journey of some kind, feel the need to monetize it. Again, not necessarily or inherently a bad thing, but not everything needs to be monetized. Not everything needs to be commercialized. And I try very hard for as someone who has essentially commercialized spirituality, right? Like it's part of how I make an income for my family. Um, it doesn't need to be that way. If it's
Hmm.
not your path, it's not your path. Like I have plenty of hobbies that I just do the just for fun that are like true hobbies. And your spirituality can just be for you. It doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to bring in money. It doesn't have to bring in social media clout. It doesn't have to be anyone other than yours,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
It's highly
Yeah.
personal.
So true. It's very
Hmm.
personal. It's very unique. Yeah. May
Yeah.
or may not be the way your channel to money, right? It may or may not be, right? It's
Yeah.
very, very unique. I go back to what we were chatting about a few minutes ago, which is bringing everyone back to get clear on who you are, what your truth is, what your values are, what lights you up, and start there. And then
Yes.
the money and the house, the things, the experiences, whatever else you want to bring into your reality will fall into place naturally around that.
It does. It really does. And that's what manifesting is. And it happens quickly when you are in alignment.
Yes, it
And
really
you
does.
might
It
be
happens
asking,
so much faster.
yeah. And you're like, well, okay, this is a great, but how do I
Yeah.
do this? How do I start? That's
Yeah.
always the question. How do I start? Can you guess? It's meditation.
Yes.
Start there. Yeah.
I am definitely an advocate for meditation, as everybody
Yes.
knows. Yes, that's the number one way to create space for yourself to be still. I mean, in
Right.
order to continue to evolve, we need to create space to allow clarity to drop into our bodies, right? Not just
Absolutely.
clarity in our mind, but clarity in our bodies. We need to not only have the information to how we want to move forward, but we need to feel the momentum of that in our body.
Absolutely. And it's the gateway,
It
you
is.
know? It
It really
really is. It's the best gateway drug ever.
It is. I mean,
That's
15 years and 7 days a week and counting for me.
that's amazing. I mean,
Yes,
that's why I'm like manifesting and mindfulness because they're you can't have one without the other, in my
exactly.
opinion.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Everything is happening in the now, which could also be a whole entire podcast episode on its own.
Yes. Good thing there's lots of episodes.
There are lots of rabbit holes. Sure. Sara Rae, thank you so much for joining us today. What a treat. I just love chatting with you.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. And I have something to share with people if they are interested in
Yes,
learning more
go
about
for it.
manifesting. I have a free manifesting bundle if you guys do want to go down this rabbit hole a little bit quicker instead of scrolling through all 200 some odd episodes that I have on my podcast or even Jennifer's podcast. If you go to spirituallyinspired.co/manifesting, there's a masterclass, there's a workbook, there's an ebook, there's an audiobook. There's a lot of there, and you can just have at it. Just go. You'll learn all of the things you need to know to manifest on purpose.
That is awesome. We will have that info for everyone in the show notes. And is there anywhere else that you want to direct folks to go if they're feeling called to connect with you more deeply?
Yeah, you can find me at the Spiritually Inspired Podcast, wherever you get your pods, every Friday. Lots of episodes in there, lots of meditations as well, Reiki and
Awesome.
guided meditations too. So
I love
thank
that.
you.
Ooh, I'm going to have to check those out too. Thank you so much. It really has been such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Path of the Awakened Heart. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or pathoftheawakenedheart.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about living with an awakened heart and navigating your ascension journey, visit me at jenniferspore.com.